If you saw David Reed working at Eagle Machining, would you give him a second thought? I mean, seriously, he's a guy working in a machine shop, just like everyone else. But then you wouldn't know his story. In 1966, parents of children with intellectual disabilities had few choices. A child could stay at home or be sent to a state-run institution. Living conditions at most state institutions were horrific and below most state prisons conditions.
When David Reed was born, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. During that time, very little was known about Asperger's syndrome. And Asperger's syndrome, we know today, manifests itself as a pervasive developmental disorder where individuals have certain delays in developing some skills. And when David was diagnosed, the medical community didn't understand much about this, so their advice to the family, which was all too common at that time for people who had children with disabilities, was that they consider institutionalization for David. And we're just very fortunate, as is David, that his family chose other options.
David's parents decided to keep him at home. Both Mr. and Mrs. Reed were teachers who shared a comprehensive understanding of their son's needs and his talents. When David graduated from high school in 1985, there were virtually no options for adults with intellectual disabilities to pursue job opportunities in the community. So for the next 20 years, David continued to live with his parents. In 2004, David's father died. Just 2 years later, tragedy struck again with the sudden death of his mother. David's brother Jonathan and his wife Melody said there was never any question David would eventually live with them, but the new environment with young children was challenging. After a time, Jonathan and Melody began to wonder if they needed to help David explore his potential outside of the family setting in an effort to lead a more productive and independent life. In 2010, they contacted York County Human Services to see what options were open for David. County representatives recommended the Community Living Program at Penn Mar Human Services.
When I first met David, when he came to the Home and Community Program, I was instantly impressed with him. He was very knowledgeable about maps and history and anything you needed to know about Gettysburg and the Civil War. We definitely saw a lot of potential within David, and as we worked with him on independent living skills, we saw more and more potential, and we watched him blossom over about a year time frame. Eventually, it was time for David to move on. His group home slot was available for him, and he transitioned to our residential programs. We were saddened to see David leave our program because we all enjoyed working with him so much. I still think to this day he's the most interesting, wonderful person I've ever met. But it's wonderful to see him move on with his life and become so independent within the community and now working with a job in the community.
In 2011, for the first time in his life, at the age of 45, David left the protection of his family. He arrived at a time when Penn Mar was phasing out its traditional sheltered workshop program and was promoting a new concept considered unthinkable when David was born: community employment.
Community employment at Penn Mar is about finding meaningful employment for each individual who wants to work. Through a career discovery process, we get to learn our job seekers, their skills, their interests, and their natural talents, as well as what types of environments they would do well in. We then meet with area employers to learn about their specific business needs, resulting in a successful employment match.
My first contact with Eagle Machinery was just a cold call. I was there to introduce myself. I was there to tell them about Penn Mar and about our community-based employment program. The second time I met with Dave Ritchie at Eagle Machinery, he was very kind and he gave me a tour of his shop. I will say that I found he was a bit skeptical until we came across the spindle lathe operation and that Eagle Machinery would have a need to fill. Dave Ritchie also explained to me the skills that were required to do that job. She also did a work experience that finalized and confirmed for me that I knew that David Reed was right for the job.
Well, when Trish first contacted me about having a position for someone from Penmar, I thought, well, you know, this is not going to work because this is a dangerous environment and you can't get hurt if you don't know what you're doing. But she was persistent, and I set up a meeting with her, and she brought in David. And I met David, and he seemed like a very good guy and a very intelligent guy. I had him work with the operator that runs the machine, and he did a very good job. Next, I talked to HR about it, and they thought I was crazy, that I really shouldn't go there because of the possibilities of someone getting hurt. So we gave Dave an opportunity, and he was here for about a week, and he did a great job, and he excelled at everything. So I decided, well, let's hire him, and I told Trish that, well, like all the other employees, it would be a 90-day probationary period, and Dave did a great job, sailed right through it. So, you know, I've seen him grow a lot since he's been here. He's opened up from being a very quiet and shy guy, talks to everybody, says goodbye to everybody as he's leaving for the day. Everybody loves Dave, they think he's a great guy, so he's gotten to grow and we've gotten to grow, so we've all grown together.
If you saw David Reed working at Eagle Machining, would you give him a second thought? He's a guy working in a machine shop like everyone else, but now you know his story.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye, Dave.